Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to COASTER-net Update. We've got some breaking news out of Tampa, Florida, where
or maybe not so breaking news.
We know that Iron Gwazi is still closed, that the park is open, Busch Gardens Tampa is open, but Iron Gwazi is not open. And we know, Danny, that before all of the pandemic, before all of the coronavirus, we have seen people on Iron Gwazi, correct?
Yeah, so really the lack of news is the news here, right? Because Kings Island is getting ready to open up here 4th of July weekend. The charity event's going to be Wednesday, July 1st. Season pass holders are going to be going in starting on the 2nd. Hershey Park for the king-size pass holders like myself get to ride Candemonium the 29th and 30th. And then regular pass holders the few days after, opening up to the public on the 3rd. And those two rides are opening. Right? They have made it very clear that those events that they have for those ride openings that were going to occur in the spring are going to occur now here this 4th of July weekend. But here we are, Busch Gardens Tampa open up June 11th, and nothing in terms of announcements for Iron Gwazi. And like you said, just before the pandemic really hit the United States and things started to shut down back in March, we saw not only testing videos from the park, but we also saw testing videos posted on several different YouTube channels with people on the ride. Now, whether or not they were park employees, RMC employees, it wasn't really that clear, but there have been people have ridden Iron Gwazi. A very few number of people have ridden Iron Gwazi. So the real question is, if people have ridden the ride, it shouldn't be that far away from opening to the public, right? But no news yet. And there's this added layer now that we learned yesterday that RMC has actually filed a lien on the ride due to some unpaid dues for the ride, just north of, I think in the $3.5 million range, out of a total of just north of $9 million that are owed to RMC. Now, Andy, that could mean one of several things. That could be, Busch Gardens is refusing to pay just because they know that they're not going to open the ride, or maybe they weren't paying while they were shut down. So maybe they're sort of delinquent on their payments and they intend on catching up. And this is just sort of a formality until they catch up, that they can't open the ride and take control of the ride until they catch up. Maybe they don't want to open the ride because of the lack of attendance that they're expecting, and they're just saying, screw it, right? That was something you brought.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So when you look at it, Universal opened up. They've been open up for a couple of weeks now. And it seems to me that that the park was very busy on the first few days and has since been kind of a ghost town. And I don't know how accurate that is, but for the most part, a lot of people are saying that attendance is way down at Universal. Disney still isn't open, so you're not having that, the rising tide theory going on. So Universal is really struggling. And it looks to me like Busch Gardens is kind of like, well, they just opened up last week. Why should we open up this new ride if no one's going to be here to ride it? And honestly, them canceling the payments to RMC, to me, makes sense on a business point of view, because they need that cash now to buy supplies for the park, to train employees, to get employees into the park, to start up stuff, to get maintenance crews back and get everything, they're open. So now they need all that stuff to actually run the park. And you don't press a lien on day one, Danny. So they didn't miss a payment, and all of a sudden, RMC's going to the courts to press a lien. This has probably been going on for a few weeks, maybe even months. Who knows? With them not paying, and it makes sense if they don't have the cash flow, and now they're opening the park and they need that cash. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense if you have no intention of opening that ride within the next few weeks, maybe even months, then why not push that back? It's kind of shitty from a business point of view to trust people to pay what they're owed. But you know what? Businesses do this kind of stuff all the time. This is part of the game.
Yeah, and if I remember hearing correctly, this isn't the only ride that's having this happen too. I believe there's other rides that are having the manufacturers or the construct or different construction contractors filing liens for unpaid debts. And I don't know that that's terribly unexpected in this situation here where you've got parks that are supposed to be open. It's supposed to be peak season right now for these parks, and most, if not all of them, are not open. And the ones that are opening are limited capacity, and you've got maybe some folks who are, still, a little bit worried and not wanting to venture out into the parks yet. So there's certainly reason to think that the money is not there as it would be expected to pay these dues at this point. But really what this means is basically RMC is saying, we own the ride. And, how things typically work is eventually the manufacturer does all their commissioning, right? And then they eventually turn it over to park operations once they're happy with the ride, and they officially turn the ride over to the park. This, to me, says that they never got to the point, and I could be wrong here, but the way I interpret this is RMC has not officially given control of the ride to Busch Gardens operations, and this is sort of a notice that says, hey, we're not giving you control of the ride until you catch up on the payments. That doesn't necessarily mean that, maybe it doesn't necessarily mean that they need to pay all of that $3.5 million or whatever it is owed, but maybe they need to at least be up to date with their payments. I'm not sure if that notice is saying this is how much you owe us before you get the ride, or if this is the balance of that $9+ million. I don't know exactly what the technical details are on that, and if I read the notice again, maybe it says it in there. But this to me says RMC has the ride right now until further notice, which is obviously why the ride is not opening, and is probably why we won't see an announcement until at least they make some of those payments. So I would say that it's probably not days, but at least weeks until we get Iron Gwazi opening up.
Well, and it makes sense to me too that Busch Gardens Tampa is a year-round park. There is absolutely no rush right now to get Iron Gwazi open. It's not like you opening that ride and you're going to have these floods of people coming in. Busch Gardens is a park that relies heavily on the Orlando area. That if people aren't going to Universal, if they're not going to SeaWorld, if all these places have limited capacity, if people aren't flying down to this region, that tourism business just isn't there. So why not wait and see what happens? And Busch Gardens has the luxury of being able to open Iron Gwazi whenever they want. So if things don't get worse, if this all goes away, they can open it whenever they want. If things do get bad, hell, they can open it up next April if they wanted to. There's nothing really stopping them from, being tied down to a specific date. And we know the rumor out of the park is they wanted Iron Gwazi open for WrestleMania weekend, that they wanted to have all those people there in Tampa, the hundreds of thousands of people who are going to WrestleMania, who are coming down for the festivities, the media that's there. They wanted to have that synergy to tie in Iron Gwazi. There was even rumors they were going to put some of the wrestlers on there to do a whole viral campaign. And right now, all that stuff, it would be kind of stupid to do because no one's really planning trips to Orlando right now. So even if you did open it and had this huge campaign, are people actually going to show up? And I think it looks to me that Tampa's saying, no, they're not.
Well, and they were certainly on pace to hit that target sometime in April,
Yeah.
Based on the timelines we were seeing. But like you said, and I would throw this out maybe too, is it perhaps that they're waiting until Disney opens in July? Because we know that the proposed Disney plan is that they will reopen sometime in early to mid-July. So that would seem to me that maybe they're waiting, knowing that you've got some people going to Universal, but Universal has generally been pretty empty. And you've got SeaWorld that's open, Busch Gardens is open as well. But generally, Disney is ultimately always going to be the biggest draw down in that market. Always has been. So the question is, when Disney opens, do you start to see some of those tourists come in, maybe not even flying, but maybe at least from out of state driving down? Maybe you start to see a little bit of an uptick in the tourists coming back. And again, this could all change because in the last week or two, we've started to see the COVID cases starting to increase again in Florida, and that Orange County is considering making masks mandatory in public, which they currently are not as of recording this at 7:52 Eastern time on June 16th. So it's people have been saying this all along. It's a very fluid situation, but it stands to reason maybe for Busch Gardens to hold off until they know that the tourist traffic is maybe picking up a little bit. And like you said, with the being a year-round park, parks that are open year-round have had very successful openings off-peak season. Magic Mountain out in California has opened up rides in the winter before. Knott's Berry Farm has actually done quite a number of December, January openings in the past. I think Ghost Rider was a December opening. I think Silver Bullet was a December opening. I'm sure someone will correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I know that a lot of year-round parks have had good success with off-peak season ride debuts. And I don't know if it's because you got people traveling there because there's nowhere else to go or what, but generally speaking, there's not a bad time to open up a new ride. Yes, you want to do Memorial Day. Yes, you want to hit the peak summer crowds. But with how busy those parks get around the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, if things are looking a lot better in September, October, why not open it up around Halloween?
Yeah.
When you're doing Hallow Scream, when you're very, very busy. Why not open it up in that sort of weird in-between time, those few weeks in between Halloween and Thanksgiving when IAPA is kind of going on, when the parks aren't that busy. The parks get busy for Thanksgiving, the parks are busy for Halloween, they're busy for Christmas, but those few weeks in between, they're not very busy. So why not maybe shoot for a November opening especially if you're behind on the payments and you can't physically open the ride yet. I think there's lots of reasons why they might be doing this, whether it's intentional or not.
Yeah, and I don't think any of those reasons are that the park's in trouble, that they're going out of business. Like people have been saying that, and this is a game. This is a money game. It's a business game that they know that they don't have to pay, that they can push this back, and they're playing this game right now to keep cash on hand. And all the parks are going through this. All the parks are trying to find ways. Six Flags canceled most of their big projects for this year and pushed them down the road. So this isn't out of the ordinary. This isn't like, oh my God, the sky is falling, like people want to believe all the time. So
no, I mean, let's face facts here. The last couple of years, SeaWorld's attendance numbers and revenue numbers have generally been pretty good. Their attendance numbers certainly have been going back up after dropping off for several years after Blackfish debuted. And let's be honest here, since 2012, the Busch Gardens SeaWorld chain has invested in some 15-ish roller coasters across all of their parks here. More than that if you count Tidal Twister. So, they've certainly done their fair share. And that's just roller coasters. We're not even talking about, refurbishment of areas, because they've redone some areas. They redid the area around. What's that?
The Sesame Street stuff they've done a whole lot with.
Well, the Sesame Street stuff, right? The new Shark Reef, the Shark Wreck Reef there, that's by Mako, the Antarctica area. I mean, they've done all these different things and invested in a number of high thrill attractions and family attractions across the entire chain over the last 7 or 8 years. So SeaWorld has certainly not been shy about spending. And in the last 3 or 4 years, we've started to see the attendance numbers kind of come back up. So, like you said, I don't think this has anything to do with them being in trouble. I don't think it changes the fact that maybe someone might be looking to acquire them. I don't think it changes that, but I don't by any means think that they're in a tremendous amount of trouble here. I don't think this is what that means.
Well, hopefully Iron Gwazi opens up soon, and we all get to ride it. So we'll keep you updated here on all the latest roller coaster news. There's not a whole lot out there, but we'll keep you updated. That's what we do. As always, I am Andy Robarchak from Chicago, Illinois.
Danny Miller from Binghamton, New York.
Right on, Ride Warriors.
See you next time, guys.